Today, the British ambassador to the Russian Federation, Nigel Casey, was called into Russian Foreign Ministry to receive a strong protest regarding the recent statement by the British Foreign Secretary David Cameron. Cameron, during his visit to Kiev, declared that Kiev has the sole authority to decide how to utilize British supplied weapons. He emphasized that these weapons could potentially be used to strike military targets located within the territory of Russian Federation itself. Up until now, Ukraine's Western allies either explicitly or implicitly maintained that the provided weaponry could only be used for strikes on territories occupied by Russia within Ukraine. This included eliminated Russian military objects within these territories, and of course, targeting groups of Russian occupying forces. However, Cameron's statement significantly altered the way both Ukraine and Russia view the potential use of, for example, British missiles currently held by Ukrainian defense forces. Moscow responded swiftly. The statement delivered to the British ambassador by the Russian Foreign Ministry asserts that Russia reserves the right to retaliate with its own strikes on British targets, both within and outside Ukrainian territory, if British missiles are indeed used to strike Russian soil. The statement by the Russian Foreign Ministry raises several questions. First, is Russia truly prepared for direct clash with a nuclear power that's a member of NATO? Or are we currently witnessing nothing more than a bluff intended to intimidate London and force the British Foreign Secretary to retract his words, while at the very least causing Ukraine to hesitate before using British missiles against Russian military targets? And second, why wasn't the British ambassador summoned earlier and subjected to similar accusations when British missiles were used to destroy, for instance, ships of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation or the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol? After all, from the perspective of the Russian constitution, Crimea and Sevastopol are just as much as inseparable part of Russian territory as Moscow Oblast, Bryansk Oblast, or any other oblast. Or are they not? Why doesn't the leadership of the Russian Federation exhibit the same level of hysteria over strikes on territories Russia had occupied since 2014 using British weapons, compared to when the discussion revolves around strikes on so-called sovereign territory of Russian Federation, recognized as such by international law? The situation creates the impression of two Russias, even for Vladimir Putin himself and certainly for Sergei Lavrov, under whose orders the British ambassador was summoned to the Russian Foreign Ministry. One Russia where any strike could lead to retaliatory strike on British soil, and another Russia where one can freely launch attack using any kind of missiles without facing repercussions. It seems that even for the leadership of the Russian Federation, despite all the decisions by the Federal Assembly of Russia regarding the incorporation of Crimea, Sevastopol, Donetsk Oblast, Lugansk Oblast, Kherson Oblast, and Zaporozhye Oblast into the country, these territories are not considered truly sovereign Russian territories. Instead, they are perceived as occupied Ukrainian land, simply housing Russian occupying forces. David Cameron's statement regarding the possibility of using British missiles to strike the so-called sovereign territory of the Russian Federation forced Moscow to acknowledge a completely new level of escalation in this war. The Kremlin likely anticipated that events would unfold in a way that would discourage the West from aiding Ukraine and leading to a de-escalation. However, the only party actively raising the stakes in this confrontation with the West remains the Russian Federation. It is clear that the UK is not a nation that Vladimir Putin can threaten with impunity. Britain is not under any nuclear umbrella and can realistically rely on its own capabilities. We remember how recently French President Emmanuel Macron rhetorically questioned what Russia could possibly threaten France with. considering France is also a nuclear power. London has undoubtedly calculated all the risks associated with the potential use of Russian weapons in response to Ukrainian strikes on sovereign Russian territory. And it seems many in the West are now realizing that without raising the stakes, there is simply no way to force Vladimir Putin to end his aggressive war. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Slava Ukraini and Russia, the lender est.